Welcome back to the Unwracked Podcast. I'm Andrew Berry, joined by Kyle Wilkes, and today we're going to do another Q&A for you guys based off of questions I got off my Instagram feed. Before we get going, Kyle, what's your week looking like? How you doing?
Doing good, man. I celebrating my wife's birthday this week. What else is going on? We're in April, right? So Q1 is officially over. So I try to look back with, some personal goals and also with clients and where they're progressing or not progressing thus far, and kind of assess what we can do differently as we move into already the next quarter of the year, which is exciting, but at the same time scary for those that are still stuck in limbo, that didn't get started in January. So other than that, man, the weather's getting better in Jersey, which is good. Not as frigid, but with the warmer weather comes, I've got a lot of lawn and pool to take care of, a lot of outside activities that now I have to participate and find time to take care of.
Yeah. What's your take on that? Do you are you a pay someone or are you a do-it-yourself kind of guy?
I'm a pay someone kind of guy at this point. With the pool, I did pools growing up for a very long time, so I can take care of that. Sometimes I open it with my dad, but the pool we have is like, it's unique in the sense of the size and the style of the pool. It's a custom built pool and has like a waterfall, so a bunch of other shit. So to open it, kind of need more than one person, so it's a pain. But it's maintenance, and I'll take care of that. Otherwise, they rape you on the prices, at least in this area. Down by
Yeah.
you guys, you're not really opening and closing. You kind of stay year round, right?
Yeah, my pool stays open. All my pools I've ever had down here stay open year round. You just like right now I'm paying someone to do it just because I realize when we start traveling, I don't have time to clean the pool on the weekends. And it's like the last thing you want to do when you get home from a trip of like let's get out the chemicals and test. So I think we
Right.
pay like $160 a month to have someone come
A
over.
month?
Yeah, per month. What do you guys pay up
Yeah.
there? Is it expensive?
Yeah, man. I mean, here they have they'll do things like chem check or like a vac where they're vacuuming, cleaning and checking pool chemicals.
Yeah.
And that's aside from the fact that most companies now, because again, when I did this in high school, that was my summer job with my family owned pool business. Um,
Nice.
Prices have skyrocketed. So generally it's like $90 just for some schmucks to come out, check the chlorine and pH, which
Yeah.
I can teach my dog to do that. Okay. So
Yeah, you can do that in
it's
five
that
minutes.
simple.
Yeah.
And then they'll throw a bunch of chemicals in, usually more than you actually need, because the reality is if you have a company and you're servicing the pool, you don't want any algae to grow, so you're going to keep chlorine a lot higher than it should be, which isn't good if you have a liner. Again, in my case, it doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
they charge you for those chemicals. The more quicker you run through supplies, the more expensive it becomes. And then if they're vacuuming it, most people have like Polarises or Tiger Sharks. I don't know if you have like the automatic pool cleaners. Those are the two main brands. But
I got one of those robots, one of those
yeah,
Echo
it's like
robots.
a robot, exactly. So most
Yeah.
people have those, but if you don't, or sometimes depending on, I have a lot of plants and flowers, right? So from a pool standpoint, I have a pool that I would hate having to service because it's always fucking dirty. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. So it gets quite dirty, and then if you pay for that, you're talking like $160 a week. That's a lot, man. That's what it would come out
Yeah,
to.
that would be a lot. Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt bad because my old pool at my other place before we moved, it didn't have a lanai. So, and we had all these trees in the backyard. And as soon as the pool would be clean, it'd be like that for about 4 to 5 hours. Next morning, you wake up, leaves, debris, all sorts of shit. So it was a major pain. But I'm happy we bought a place with a lanai now. All right. So if we wanted to start a pool podcast, Kyle would definitely lead the way on that one with his
Oh,
vast experience.
I know my pool. Yes.
But today we're going to start off with some physique critiques. This is Marino McDonald. If I get him up here. All right. So Marino is 5'5", 187, 27 years old, NPC bodybuilder. Let's see. He sent this last week. So he's probably 11 weeks out from the NPC battle at the river. It's his second show. If he qualifies, he's debating on whether or not to do nationals. So I assume he wants to know our opinion on whether he should, do nationals or maybe take another year. He wants to know if he has the structure to be competitive. He's currently doing 30 minutes fasted, 15K steps daily. He's doing a lot of cardio. 30-second hit bike sprints 3 times weekly. He shares his cycle: 800 tests, 500 Primo, 300 Mast, and 300 Tren Ace. And they just bumped in 50 mics of Clen, up from 25 mics, and would love to hear your feedback. Love the podcast. Okay.
He's 11 weeks out, you said?
I'm doing the math. Yeah, he'd be 11 weeks out now.
Okay. Well, before we dive into the supplement, I think let's just start with the physical aspect. So this is a bodybuilder. What division? I mean, I didn't hear the weight. What was the weight?
I think he said, what, 187? Let me double check. He's 187. So he's probably going to be a mid.
What's that?
He's probably going to be a middle.
That's what I'm thinking, right? In 10 weeks, pull off 8 pounds.
Yeah, and he's 5'5", so he's not too tall.
Okay. So, I mean, from a physique standpoint, regardless of weeks out, right, I look at the amount of muscle he has for someone his size. I think he's got some shape to him, good size. Do I think he could use a little bit more in certain areas? Sure. I think I like the lines. Like, he's balanced, I'll tell you that. I don't think there's like, sometimes you see guys that are just top heavy or bottom heavy. And these 4 photos here, I think, is good representation of what balance is in open bodybuilding. And his side shots, I mean, even his hamstrings, I like the side profile there. Posing on the side try, that's got to change for sure. That'll help him a little bit.
Yeah, he looks like he's well, I won't say my comment, but he's hitting the abs kind of like some of the pro bodybuilders we know. I'm just saying,
Okay.
because if he pulls that ab in, that's a nice shot on him. If he pulls his lower
for
stomach,
sure, it'll look like a side chest. No, this is great. And then I think he's one of the few people that I would actually say he could use a little bit more shoulders, at least the way he's posing that front relaxed. Like, they're not bubbly. So most of the time I'm just like, hey man, you need more chest. Like, it doesn't matter what color you are. It's just most people over emphasize their shoulder training and they don't put enough into like chest training and upper chest training. For him, that's what's glaring to me. I think from a leg standpoint, I mean, again, I see good detail. Can't tell if his right sweep is just different from his left sweep, or the way he's posing. Maybe the tattoos just throwing me for a loop. Try not to move. I don't want to put my face into the mic.
Yeah, I mean, the left quad might be just a little bit bigger. I mean, I always had a little bit of disparity myself, and my left was a little bit bigger than the right, Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said. I would agree with you. I think he just needs more shoulders. And you really see that in the front relaxed, where that like upper area is just kind of lacking just a little bit. The front delts, medial delts just aren't like billowing out to the side. He does a good job in the most muscular of presenting it, but he could definitely be bigger in that shoulder region. Very complete physique. Structurally, absolutely. You could be someone that could, do well at nationals. 5'5", you come in right around 175, you're going to be kind of nasty, Yeah. All right, you want to talk about it?
So, in his cardio right now, how much cardio is he doing right now?
He's doing a fair amount. Like, let me pull that back up again. Said he's doing 30 minutes fasted at 3.6 speed, 2% incline daily, 15,000 steps, and then he's doing 3 30-second hit bike sprints 3 times weekly at 11 weeks out.
I mean, like I said, I think conditioning-wise, this is wonderful. I don't really say people are ahead much, but I say this is ahead of where he needs to be, for sure.
Let me ask you, would you have a, and we don't know his back history. We don't know if, he's a really hard case to get in shape. Would you have someone doing that much cardio this far out?
I would try not to. I mean, there's times and instances where, again, I'll start preps with some HIIT, and as food comes down, I'm removing the HIIT probably, especially because they probably get pretty good at it if you start the prep using harder bits of cardio. I try not to unless, again, now we have people that count steps and all this crazy stuff. Like, I go back to someone in my position where I didn't really get much steps throughout the day unless I was walking through 2 meetings and things like that. So my cardio, at 12 weeks out, even when I was like a lard, I guess I was doing maybe 45 minutes. But again, I wasn't looking like this. I was fucking behind that. So to answer your question, I guess, given what we're looking at here, I think he's doing a fair bit of cardio, and I would probably pull back a little bit to feed him more, or vice versa, because he's probably, I guess, sorry to say that again before someone's like, hey, you make no sense. I would pull the food down to compensate with lower cardio. as
Yeah.
opposed to right now maybe he's doing more cardio because he's eating more or something like that, right? Just pull the goddamn food down a little bit if that's the case, because if you're
Yeah.
going to start to eat away at your muscle, probably if you're doing that much.
Maybe he's doing all the cardio with that right leg, and the left leg's just kind of trailing on the side, and that's why it's a little bit bigger. I'm kidding, people. No, yeah, I agree. I thought that was a little bit high on the cardio, but again, I'm not his coach. I'm not the one that's been working with him, so maybe his coach has a really good reason why, or maybe he has a good reason why he's doing this much cardio. Maybe he's trying to be in shape, 5 weeks out, and then doing zero cardio and reverse dieting completely into the show. But I don't think he doesn't look like someone that's going to be out of shape. Like I'll go on record and say this type of conditioning would be the best condition I was ever in at 11 weeks out.
Yeah.
With the
Wow.
exception of like the last year I competed.
Now, what do you think about the supplements? So I think if I heard correctly, you said 800 tests. I think you said 500 Primo, 300 Mass. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 800 tests, 500 Primo, 300 Mass, and 300 Tren Ace. My first thoughts are I'm not throwing Trenbolone Ace in there at 11, 12 weeks out. I'm going to save that card to play for later, especially. And here's the thing, like I don't ever want the trend look to confuse me into thinking that me or someone is in better condition than they are. And then there's also just the health aspect of how many milligrams are we putting into someone at any one time. In my mind, I kind of want you to get like 85 to 90% there in terms of like the look before I add Tren in, because then it's just icing on the cake at that point. And then you add in another layer with the orals. Do I think like 800 tests, 500 Primo, 300 Mast would be a good cycle for him right now, minus the Tren? Absolutely. And then just add the Tren in later. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, to echo off what you're saying, there are instances where I think you can utilize Tren earlier out to get someone ahead. But again, we have this fellow here who is ahead. So to me, pull it out, then put it back in. I just think it's save it for when you need it, like you kind of said. Obviously, can you keep it in at such a low dose? Sure. At some point, I think you just start to have some consequences for it. As far as the test, Master Primo, that's perfectly fine. I've run very similar things to where as the weeks go on, I'll start to titrate down the Primo, titrate up the Mast.
Yep.
Usually between 4 and 6 out, I'm pulling Primo unless I really think the look is what I want, but usually for water retention purposes, right?
Let me ask you this, because I know people are going to ask in the comments, or they're going to think about it. Why titrate the Primo down and the Masteron up? Like purely visual? Is there another reason?
So, two, visual, yes. As you put higher Masteron, I think you're going to look a little different than the Primo. But for estradiol purposes, right, Masteron I think is a little stronger than Primo Bolin when we're talking about controlling your E2. And then again, I just look at the fact of I decide what amount of androgens I want in. What is that total load? So in this case, we have basically 800 tests, 800 combination from Primo Mast. So I'll use that same combo and I'll continuously lower it, ultimately, something like that. Being that I'd made that decision at 15, 16 weeks out, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking, this is where we're at, as opposed to just keeping Primo 500, bringing Mast higher and higher and higher. I don't think it's needed. Again, do people do that in the past? Of course, people take more than they need all the time, and they're just afraid to realize that, A, they're still going to suck taking that much, and B, they're not going to look much different than if they just take half the amount. The only thing that takes a hit is the wallet. And when you come to that recollection, you start to realize, okay, cool, like let's be smart here, right?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I'm thinking of too is like at some point, especially as your body fat levels go down, you're running out of real estate to put all this oil, and it becomes apparent that you have inflamed muscle tissue when, you know what I mean? Like when like you don't want to go on stage or even be like a couple weeks out and have what looks like welts from an inflammation from, 15 cc's of liquid that you pumped into your body that week, So I
For
think
sure. Going back to my earlier
that
reps, I had been told, hey, take, this is what you're using. And again, I follow the lead of what the person's saying. It's what I want to do. It's ultimately my decision. But it becomes a lot. I don't know where to put it all.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite prep cycles was something like, it was 2017, very similar to this gentleman's cycle, Marino's cycle. I think it was like 800 tests. I think I started out with like 800 Primo, and then at like 10 weeks out, the Primo went to 400, Masteron went in at 400. And then like at 6 weeks out, the Mast went to 600 and the Primo came down to 200 or 300. And then we just added Tren in for like, we only added it in for like 2.5 weeks at the end. And I don't even think I used orals for that prep either. And I really like the look. And it's weird because I felt so healthy too, like really friggin' healthy. Like I could just keep going all year. But I still sucked and I needed more muscle, so I had to shut it down. Anyway, all right, let's get to some questions. This is from Jeremy Holt. Not a question, but a topic. Female PEDs contest off-season. You know what? Why don't we save this for an actual episode? You know what I'm saying? Like we'll do more of a deeper dive episode because this is like probably a 10
let's
to 20
give like
minute.
high level, I guess, just if we can,
Okay.
high level, right?
High level
So
PEDs.
Yeah, what's he's do's and don'ts, right? I guess depending on the division, there's certain things I'm not utilizing. I'll put it that way.
Well, okay. Why don't you start with that? What drugs wouldn't you use in? Just name a drug and name a division you wouldn't use it in.
I will not use Tren, okay? And anything other than I guess women's bodybuilding. I can't really say I have vast experience doing that. I won't say I've never had someone do that, but let's just say on record, I'm not doing that, okay? I don't think it's practical. I think it's people that are doing that maybe at the very highest level, like I said, women's bodybuilding, and they've done it all the time. It's kind of hard to talk people out of that, but I don't see a need for it. Figure, bikini, I don't understand why you would ever even consider doing such a thing. Injectables in bikini is as far as I would go, is maybe a Primo or something like that. I don't really see the need for Masteron. Testosterone's recommended very highly now by many people for various reasons that have nothing to do with having low testosterone. They just put it in, but that's I'm very cautious, I guess, with injectables when it comes to females, just because of the side effects that you're going to get. It's not a matter of if, it's when you will get those side effects if you start injecting yourself. So, that's my take on that. What about you for injectables?
This gives us a rare opportunity to disagree on something. And
Cool.
in terms of like trenbolone and females, and I'm not saying like bikini, absolutely fucking not. I actually had a bikini girl come to me one time, and she was using like 30 or 40 milligrams of Tren a week. Never even competed before, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, I take it from my boyfriend's. I take it from his bottle. He doesn't even know. Don't tell him." Because I wasn't coaching him, but I was friends with him. I'm like, you kind of put me in a spot here, but we pulled her off that. But I will say that for figure, at least figure on up, low dose Tren, and this wasn't like a novel idea to me where I'm like, oh, I'm going to use Tren with females. This was girls asking me in several instances, hey, I want to try Tren. Like, what do you think about Tren? And it was me saying, I just don't think it's needed. It's not a good idea. But then they talked me into it, and I figure, well, it's kind of like when your parent tells you not to do something, you're going to do it anyway, and you're just going to hide it, and you're probably going to do it worse than if they knew about it. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. I think it capped out at a total of 5 milligrams of Tren per week. Okay, maybe a little bit
5
more.
milligrams a week?
Yeah.
What the fuck is the point of that?
Well, I I don't. Well, I'll show you privately because I don't think she would want me to show you her pictures. But a girl did very well. She won her class at Junior USA's out of 14 or 16 girls a couple of years back. Don't you people start looking and seeing who I was coaching in the figure division at those shows a couple of years back? No, like it produced a super hard look to the point though that the feedback from Sandy was you're too hard. So, maybe it's too much. Upper level, we'll say national level and, pro level, divisions. It's not uncommon to take somewhere between 70 and 100 milligrams of Primo per week, 2 to 10 milligrams of testosterone per week. NPP,
Yeah.
a lot of times NPP is used in the off season. A lot of wellness girls are liking the NPP right now. Some figure as well. And then, when it comes to contest prep, your typical Primo, Anavar, maybe low dose Masteron. In terms of orals, Proviron and AIs at the end, typically. That's kind of what I see, and that's kind of what I do.
Right.
I don't want to give like specific doses because then like someone's going to say, oh, that's just a crazy dose to give a girl. But it's like, well, My policy with every female I work with, I say this before we start PEDs, is I can't tell you what side effects you're going to get. I can't tell you if you're going to get any of them. These are the 8 or 9 different possible side effects. You need to look for them. And before we even start, you need to think about these and decide which ones would I be okay with and which ones are just a no-go for me whatsoever. And when you see any of these, we have a see something, say something relationship where like I had a woman yesterday. We're running Primo and Anavar. We did Primo for about 10 weeks, and then we threw an Anavar for the last 6 weeks of her cycle. 2 weeks in, she's telling me that she's seeing something that she didn't like. And I said, okay, no harm, no foul. Pull out the Anavar, and we'll continue on our merry way and continue the cycle, which she was very happy about. I think she felt great that she could mention the side effect, and I wasn't like, there's a cost to being the boss. You got to do it or not, It's like, well, you don't have to do it.
No, for sure. I think, there's a time and a place, off season, like you said, can NPP be used? Obviously, there's wellness competitors that definitely use it. Figure competitors, bikini, I don't really think you should need NPP. If you can't put on the minimal amount of muscle that's needed for bikini, I don't really think you're doing things right, probably, right? There's something you're leaving on the table. But yeah, that's my thing. It's just, I think sometimes people take a little bit more time. Put another 2 years in, I think you can achieve a lot of what people are seeking to achieve by going the pharmacology route and just taking things. I think that's my.
Let me ask you this, because this brings up kind of a side question, and you and me and Chris have already talked about it, but when you started, was your original goal to go pro?
Me personally, go bodybuilding?
Yeah.
No.
Me neither. Me neither. I just want to get that out there, right? Because I think we're part of a little bit of the older guard. Now, like when I get any inquiries from competitors, there's always some mention of competing for a pro card in their goals, right? And my next question to you is, do you think everybody with enough time could go pro, whether it's open, masters?
With enough time, most people could. If you told me, hey, I'm going to give you 30 years. Okay. I think over 30 years.
Okay, let's say, could I go pro within 10 years? It's hard, right?
There's people out there that I've coached that I know they train well. Their lifestyle doesn't allow them to get the recovery that's needed, so it's never going to work, right? I think the landscape has changed a lot in terms of before there was classic. Arguably getting a pro carb was a little bit more challenging in the fact that if you're a bodybuilder or a men's physique, there's 2 different looks. You're not seeing people cross over in that regard.
Yeah.
Now with classic, you can see people kind of, okay, I don't have the legs yet. Let me do men's physique. Yeah. Right? Oh, I can actually fit into this classic height based on my weight and bodybuilding. Let me do that, get a pro card there, but I'm really a bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. So it gives you a little bit more opportunity, but that's not going to take away. If you don't have the genetics, I think there's a limitation, and that's the reality of it, especially as you start to get, depending when you start, right? There's a stamp of approval that you're going to have in terms of how long you can actually bodybuild without getting those injuries. Now, obviously, can you intelligently try to train around those things, prevent those? For sure. But at some point, when you're 20, I don't know any person that's 20 years old right now, that's 30 plus years old right now, that can look back and say over the last 10 years, nothing in my life has changed. I'm doing the same stuff I did at 20. Life changes. You get a family, meet someone, hopefully, and your values and priorities shift. So bodybuilding, unfortunately, at some point has to come down. And if you are trying to get a pro card, not many people fuck around and get a pro card. I have some clients that do a prep and they're awesome. They have great genetics and they can get a pro card. But most people, if you're trying like hard 5 or 6 years already, and you're at the point of considering like, well, I'm going to change careers. I'm going to put more time into my career to make money. I don't think you're going to get a pro card unless you're on the verge of turning the master's division to where, hey, now you have the over 40, the over 35, you can catch a show where maybe people aren't at,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think also, when you get to that 30, 32, 33, your priorities do start to change a little bit too, because you kind of realize there's a finality to both bodybuilding and life. And so you start to, not to say that bodybuilding doesn't matter, because it was the only thing that mattered to me in my 20s, but it's like you start using words like savings and retirement and, mortgage and stuff that like wasn't even in your vocabulary in your 20s, Okay, so Nikko Tybalt IFBB Pro. How long should you push or maintain a new high body weight before your next prep? So you did an off season, you hit a new high, you're in that marinating kind of cementing in phase. What do you like to see time frame wise?
Um, 8 weeks, I think, is a good number without giving you a vast. Obviously, it could be plus or minus two. I think that's a good time frame. If you can at least try to hold body weight composition where it's at for 2 months, so that'd be a great starting point, I think, to say, okay, let's start to pull down, or are we going to do another push phase, something like that. Otherwise, again, from experience, anecdotally, when you get to a certain body weight and then you just, okay, let's crush the food, you have a big drop the first week, like 7 pounds come off, and it's like, hey, now we're no longer near our high.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, I agree with that. And the only thing I'll add is that it comes down to the situation. Like, here's the prime example. You get a guy who's just like, dude, I can't eat anymore. I'm so sick of eating. I wake up full. I all I do is think about food and I just want to throw up when I think about it. Okay, you know what? Like we're probably going to have a shorter holding pattern phase or whatever you want to call it. Um, because it's just not sustainable, right? I don't want people to feel like they're not following the program because they can't eat the food. You know what I mean? Like we always got to push a little bit more than we want to eat, but I don't want someone to feel like a failure because they can't eat 6,000 calories for, 12 months straight, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it just got to realistically fit into the plan. Did you make progress? Did your legs come up? Because that's the thing that we really needed to see come up. Okay. Now we're going to plan your prep in a way to make sure that we maintain and keep that new mass. And we're going to try to stay off the cardio. Hopefully we kept you a lot leaner during this off season phase. So we're not doing a lot of cardio. We're not doing a lot of the fat burners and whatnot. Josh Tay Reed, will you guys be at the NPC Universe? I think so.
I think I've been at the NPC Universe for fucking 10 years in a row.
Dude, I've been since 2013.
Yeah.
I don't think I missed a year. Yeah, I don't think I missed a year since 2013. It's a little different now. It's a flight instead of a drive for me. But yeah, honestly, I look forward to the universe. It's a good show. I like the venue in Teaneck. I get to see a lot of my friends, like Justin Randall in particular. He's an NPC judge, also a great coach in his own right, and also a great 212 bodybuilder when he competed. He'd still be at the top of his game if he was competing today and not doing the judging thing. Um, but yeah, it's a great time to like get together with my East Coast friends and family that I don't really see that often. So I look forward to that. Yeah. C. Jeffrey, what dictates the length of a cruise besides letting health markers normalize?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
Um, the length of a cruise, right? Yes, you want your blood markers to be optimal, but at the same time, you want to give your body a chance to reset. And there's nothing that's going to tell you that that's just based on lab work, right? Just because something comes back and for 8 weeks you've taken the health supplements and you're not pushing yourself in the gym, doesn't mean everything's clear. You could go right back on cycle, push hard for 2 weeks in the gym, and shit's all fucked up again, right? So
Hmm.
I think giving yourself at least 8 weeks makes the most sense. In other aspects, you consider how heavy of a cycle you're pushing, how long were you on prep, what you're doing to your body. I think, sometimes that can extend, but I would never say under 8 weeks is really appropriate unless you're running, I don't know, bikini girl cycles. But again, apparently bikini girl cycles can be quite heavy sometimes.
Yeah. I guess I would say the other thing I had to take into account that dictates the length is how we're planning the overall year. Like
Yeah.
if we're getting ready, if our goal is to do nationals 2026 and it's, you know, let's say August of 2025 and we're planning our blast and then our cruise, like it's got to match up somewhere there. So it might end up being a longer cruise period because I don't want to start you on PEDs 25 weeks out from nationals.
Yeah.
So that gets taken into account as well. Like, how do we plan for the show you're trying to do? And the other thing I'll say too is this and I've done two or three guys this year alone already. We've canceled their contest prep plans because their off seasons are going so well. In my mind, like I don't want to cancel an off season or even, like I might extend a blast a little bit if progress is just like coming at a premium and it just keeps coming and coming. It's like, okay, the whole name of the game here is bodybuilding, and right now you're building a body. So let's not shut it down just because we have this this plan to get you on stage at a certain point during the year. Great Giza. Thoughts on kombucha in the morning for gut health. Brands, flavors, things to look for. This sounds familiar.
I don't think this is a routine viewer.
This must be a new viewer.
So on our last podcast, we kind of talked about it. So, but maybe if he's speaking to brands, I mean, there's a lot of different ones.
Synergy is one of them.
Well, I'm trying to think. I go to Wegmans and Sprouts for a lot of things. I'm trying to think.
Well, you guys got Sprouts?
Yeah, we have a Sprouts nearby.
Nice.
It's not too far. No, what did I say? Sprouts? Fuck idiot. Whole Foods.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say,
where's the nearest Sprouts? Let's tell people. Let's see.
It's probably here in Florida.
Sprouts near me. Cliffwood, New Jersey. Not too far.
Okay.
Yeah, not too
Nice.
Healthy kombucha. That was one.
They're good. Are they the one in the brown bottle that's like a little bit shorter?
Different colors and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I like those.
Yeah.
I like them all, man. I don't think I've had one that I didn't like, a brand that I didn't like. It's like sometimes there's just flavor. Like if it's got too much cayenne in it, because Rachel likes that one, I take a sip of that and it just kind of burns my throat. But I like the ones that have like lime in them, watermelon.
You like the Synergy? That's like a brand you like?
Dude, I like them all. Like I really haven't found a brand that I don't like. You know.
And I think most of these drinks for people that are maybe interested in trying them. I think they're all one serving. I don't think they're.
One bottle is one serving. I think you're right.
Yeah.
You know what I tell people though, because they are a little pricey at like $3.20 or $3.50 a bottle. I'm like, do half a bottle a day, you know, because you're still gonna get plenty of benefits with that bacterial dose, the probiotics there. So, yeah, I think if you're doing it consistently, you know, that's the main important thing. Do it consistently. Don't just like one weekend drink 2 kombuchas a day, because you're gonna end up in the bathroom pretty quickly. But like ease yourself into it. Start with maybe, you know, a third of a bottle, work yourself up to a half. If money's great and you can do it, go with the full bottle every day. But I think the main thing is just consistency.
And I think they're all generally low calorie. Like there's obviously some sugar in the flavor ones we're talking about, right?
There's like 7 to 10 grams of carbs or sugar in each one, because of course they need sugar to ferment. Honestly, I don't even write that down in people's plans. It just says add a kombucha, and I don't even account for the calories.
Yeah.
One thing, you know, some people might have issues with if they're drinking a highly caffeinated one, you know, because these are made with teas, you know, black tea and green tea. Green tea's got lower caffeine than black tea. You can get a decaffeinated one, but it is, you know, a full bottle is like 10 to 25 milligrams. If you're the type that's super susceptible to the effects of caffeine, maybe avoid it at night. But I've never found an issue, even if I drink one late at night.
Yeah.
Jarders _ are shorter guys' arms actually bigger or just visually bigger? That's kind of a funny question.
I mean, you can measure it. You're going to see that they have more size to it, man. So
Yeah.
it's kind of asking, is your private part bigger? Yeah, like, black and white, my guy. You know?
Yeah, like I think we always visually they look bigger because it's on a shorter frame, you know?
Yeah.
Like how many times have you been next to one of your shorter clients and you're like, I know my quads are fucking 5 inches larger than yours, but if they're a 212 guy, you know, their quads are just compacted.
Different. Yeah, everything's just different. So there's less. They need less overall muscle to look the same. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, 100%. All right, we got a good physique critique here I want to bring up. Let me pull him up here.
Better be good. You're saying it's good.
He's good, man. I was impressed.
Okay.
Nikko Parrelly.
Oh.
He is coached by Justin Shire, IFBB Pro. 5'9", he's 196 on stage here. He's 24. NPC, he competed at the Detroit Pro-Am a couple weeks ago. He's doing junior nationals next month. Wow, it's basically next month. These are my photos from the show this past weekend. This was my second show ever. I was able to win my class in the overall. I added some pictures from my first show, which was in November of 2024 in the Midwest Gladiator NP show in Chicago a little over a year ago. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you how much weight he put on. I want to show you these. This is his first show he did. a little like 13, 14 months ago. Okay. And this was him 2 weeks ago. How much weight do you think he put on between pictures?
How tall is he?
5'9", and he's 196 in the current stage pictures.
Go back one more time. 24 pounds.
36.
Holy shit! Wow.
That's an improvement. Did you ever put on 36 pounds in one off season?
Yeah, man, I do it every time I take an off season.
No, I mean, did you put on 36 pounds of stage tissue from show to show?
Good question. See, no, the answer is absolutely not. So, I mean, Nikko, that's fantastic. God bless your soul. And he put on make that kind of improvements, and he did it in the right places. Like, I don't think his physique. Sometimes people make these massive jumps. Sometimes previously they were that weight, so it's not like they're really making as crazy of a jump. But then you see their waist get out of control. Proportions are gone. This guy, you go from where he is now, and you see his side chest, and like, hey man, your legs, but the width is crazy. Like, I think his side chest looks awesome. I think he could use a little bit more muscle in the chest. Arms could be a little bigger. I'm thinking pro level when I see this physique now in terms of what he needs to be really good up there. But he's made magnificent changes, so that's awesome. Everything he's doing with Justin, they're doing a fantastic job. The conditioning here that's good enough to get a pro card. I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
I also want to point out, this is the Detroit Pro Am lighting. This is what every stage should have, because look at the detail you're able to see on Nikko here. Like his glutes, hamstrings. It just looks like such a nice, classic, like shredded athlete look. And you don't see that in a lot of these other shows. It kind of, too many lights, too much backdrop, kind of hides all that. All right, so you said chest and arms he needs to work on a little bit. I would agree with that.
One other thing, for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really think I think he did a great job bringing his legs up. Like, I was looking at, this picture. Look at the side leg here, and then
That's what jumps
that's
out.
retarded, man. That's retarded. That's crazy. Just keep, why am I giving him advice? He's got a coach that's taking him in the right direction. Justin, great job, man. We got to have you on the show sometime. Nikko, great job. I could definitely see you doing very well at junior nationals, and seeing you with 4 initials at the end of your name at some point this year. So, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think, like I said, if I'm just trying to dissect his physique, the back double, get more width to him.
Yeah.
And that's really it, man. I think if he works on just doing what he did, essentially, maybe a little bit more priority, like I said, on just chest, back, width, I think he surely can get a pro card this year in the classic version.
Darian Hogden, programmed rest days or take rest days as needed?
That's a really good question, actually. I prefer a combination, and what I mean by that is, in a perfect world, I like a numbered split, as I mentioned. I don't want to be married to the fact that I have to go to the gym every day, but Wednesday and Sunday. Now, that works for many people's schedule. That's why I'll do it. However, in conjunction to that, I will always say, you may take another day off if you feel as though you need it. I'm never going to be mad that you took an extra rest day.
100%. Yeah, I mean, we're bodybuilders. We like to schedule things, especially if you have a training partner. So obviously, you're probably going to start with a programmed rest day in your plan. Like, unless someone's on like a 2 on, 1 off, and just the rest day changes every 3 days. I think you start with a program, just because we're bodybuilders. We have schedules. We like to plan things, right? But then I agree 100% with you. All my clients, like, if we're on the same page on how you're supposed to train, and you're training that way, then you have full reins to take control and say, hey, you know what? I'm waking up on the wrong side of the bed today. Things don't feel right. I'm going to take an extra rest day. God bless you. Go do it.
Yeah.
Luis Martinez G. What are some examples of biofeedback, and how does someone get better at reading and adjusting it? So what are some examples of biofeedback? So I guess, are we talking like, blood sugar?
No, I think that's client. I mean, I guess that could be quantifiable data that falls into biofeedback, but I was thinking more I only know what you tell me, right? So if Andrew gives me a diet, gives me a series of questions, normally a good coach is going to have questions that go beyond what's your weight in pictures, right? He might ask, how's your sleep? Good biofeedback would be, hey, this is how my sleep has been. Maybe I have a value from a metric side of things I can give him, my HRV, things of that nature in addition. But feedback specifically, hey, I notice I'm having disrupted sleep. I'm having a hard time getting to sleep. I'm getting up often. That helps him other than just saying sleep is good. Okay.
Yeah.
If we are talking about bowel movements, do you go to the bathroom every day? Yeah, Andrew, I go to the bathroom every day, but I usually go once or twice, and now I'm going 5 or 6. That's feedback.
Yeah.
Well, what does your stool look like? Is it runny? Are you feeling you're constipated? This is all biofeedback that Andrew wouldn't know without me telling him, right? Just looking at a picture, he might not know, hey, he hasn't been sleeping. Maybe he's just overly stressed. Maybe he's having a reaction to the injectables, right? I had a case of that in a recent time where someone switched over to different oils. Injections that are done, for example, can cause allergic reactions, right? So if someone has a bad injection, that could drive up some weight. What else is a good important marker? Obviously, we touched digestion
Um,
again.
yeah, I
You know,
mean, maybe like, oh, I lost my job, my wife left me. So if my body looks super stressed right now, it's because it is, you know.
yeah.
Um,
So those are all things that I think anything that the person would not be able to infer simply from pictures and weight is biofeedback. And the better you get at keeping it concise and explaining what it is that's going on
yeah.
without having 12 paragraphs, I think is health.
I think the way you eliminate the 12 paragraphs is good coaches have good coaching questions or, forms or apps or whatever it is, whatever system they use, they have a system that gives them all that information, that biofeedback that we're talking about, so
Yeah.
that there's no ambiguity, there's no need for a client to write, a thesis on why they look the way they do that day.
Yeah.
Also from Luis Martinez G. Is it okay to get veggies and fruits from the mixed frozen bags at Costco? Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, I think it's inherent to, if you find a particular product you like, look at the back of the label and see are there added ingredients to it, or is it 100% strawberries or blueberries or whatever the fruit is. If you see additives in there, especially things you don't recognize, then you probably should turn away from that product. And you can also even go a little bit deeper, look up the company that manufactures and harvests the food and look at their policies on how they grow it. Are they rotating crops so that they're getting they're not causing nutrient depletion in the soil? Are they using a lot of pesticides and shit? So there's a lot of ways to figure out, is the food you're eating as quality as it can be? What do you think?
I think exactly what you said. Check
Yeah.
the ingredient panel, but otherwise, if you prefer frozen, and eat certain foods, I'm thinking of certain meals that people like to make, like cream of rice, oatmeal.
Yeah.
Potentially, the frozen is better. It cools the meal down a little bit, makes it tastier, as opposed to fresh. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can go either route, whatever you enjoy. Is it
I
perfectly okay?
I put frozen blueberries into my Ninja Creamy, and it's pretty damn tasty. So, the Dalton Wolf. How long would your typical reverse diet with clients last? Hmm.
Typical reverse diet with clients. I mean,
I don't know if there's ever a typical.
it's hard to give a definitive answer, right? There's no absolute. Again, I'll use like 8 weeks as a good reference, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I'd also say it depends on how adherent the client is, because let's say you could write up the best reverse plan for someone, but if they, in the first week or two, they're up 20, even 15 pounds, females up 10 pounds, we're kind of starting from a bad standing point, and now we're like kind of dieting to reverse diet again. It's like that's like the worst situation to be in, right? When someone puts on fat very quickly, the scale's up, and then of course what happens? They're depressed, then they're going to go back to reverting to cyclically eating more and kind of just repeating those habits over and over again. And as coaches, it makes it really hard for us because how many times have you had someone where you've already talked about the reverse before the show? You're like, and they're like on board. They're like, I'm going to nail this. I'm going to have my best off season ever. We're gonna stay lean all year. Blah blah blah. And then like you're 10 days into the reverse. You haven't heard from them since the show, and then they send you a check-in. Hey, coach, how you doing? So I think I messed up. You know, can we salvage this? You get a lot of those. Can we still fix this? Um, so I just think, do yourself a service. And I tell my clients, if you want to check in every day post show, check in every day. If it keeps you following the plan better, because it's like when you're getting ready for the show, you have that major motivator of I'm going to be on stage judged wearing, 90% naked and in front of my friends, my family, the judges, the whole world, Instagram, etc., right? Well, after the show, you don't have to necessarily pose for anybody. It's just yourself and your coach. So you're losing a lot of that external motivation. And I think you got to do what you can to make sure I like reverse diets to last as long as possible. As long as you're staying insulin sensitive, as long as we're keeping your appetite up. That's me.
Fair enough.
J_Renoir, blood glucose monitor utilization during peak week carb up days, checking BG post meals. Okay. It's a big one. For me, at least. I
Yeah.
I use blood sugar monitors before every single. I do a glucose reading before every meal because that gives me a lot of information, right? If we're 3 meals deep on Friday and your show's on Saturday, and we've been pushing 85 to 100 grams of carbs every meal, and your blood sugar is 79 for that fourth meal, guess what? We can still keep feeding you without any problems. If that number says 99, 108, 107, okay, that gives me some information that maybe we need to slow down a little bit. Maybe we need to do a protein and fat meal, or at least maybe cut those carbs in half because your last meal hasn't cleared. And now we're getting to a situation where we might be spilling you and you're going to start holding water. So that's how I use the blood glucose monitor. I think it's important. It's an important tool to use. And I think it's incumbent on us to use that because when athletes go to a show in a hotel room, the lighting's different than what you're seeing at home, right? And maybe the lighting's not as good. So you're like, are they a little spilled? Are they holding water now? Or are they still right on point? The blood sugar monitor will help clear a lot of that up.
No, fair enough. I think in if I were to use it, it'd be in similar instances. The reason I won't use it with some competitors is primarily from a stress standpoint. Sometimes it's very tedious for them and they have things going on. And, I'm not going to spring it on someone if they're not used to doing that. But if there are people that from day one in their off season, hey, this is something I'm doing, or they're utilizing, generally people that have glucose monitors from day one, because obviously as they listen to the podcast, like, hey, I picked one up and I use it, cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, in prior experience, the only time I had people that had one, so they use insulin. So they think they need one, which again, you should have one.
Yeah, you should have one.
But that was the only reason they had it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I guess anyone I work with, like they're used to doing blood sugar readings every check-in. And then especially like when we start to do heavier refeeds, I want to know what the blood sugar is looking like throughout the day. That gives me a little more information on the back end when it comes time to actually filling you out. And then, like Thursday, Friday, you're doing a blood sugar reading for me before every meal. It's just kind of policy. Most people don't really mind it, I don't think. I think because they understand it's given them giving me an extra layer of information, and they're like, okay, well, I'm giving my guy every possible advantage we can have to make sure this goes as well as possible. But I could see how someone who you never done that with before, you're like, hey, okay, you got that glucose monitor, right? Yeah. Okay, I want you to take a blood sugar reading before every meal. Every meal, like,
Yeah.
I got to bring it with me everywhere I go. What about the athletes? Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Nick Lubansky, 3K calories during cut. How do we feel about accidental 1,000 to 1.5 calorie deficit several times per week? All right, so let's say he's in a cut, eating 3,000 calories a day. How do we feel about, how do you accidentally eat half your calories? Because it says,
busy not eating his food.
that ain't accidental. You just didn't eat your food. Accidental is like, oh, I didn't realize this food that's supposed to have 300 calories only had 150, which I don't know. I guess I don't understand the premise of the question.
No, so yeah, it was a little weird. I'm inferring that the person voluntarily eats less food
Yeah.
than they're supposed to. How do I feel about it? I mean, how do I feel if you don't follow a plan you're supposed to follow? I feel like you're a fucking
Yeah.
idiot. It's annoying. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I don't think you need to do that. It's too aggressive. That I should say the same thing. How would I feel about starting a cut and I'm going to take maximum dosage clenbuterol, maximum dosage of Tren? Will it work? Yeah, it's going to work. Not for long. And
Yeah.
then I'm still going to be not where I want to be. So I just
Yeah.
don't think you need to do about 3 or 4 days accidentally of half the amount of food you should be eating.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out how one sets that up. Like, because I guess you do the math, you're like, well, actually, you're really only at like a 2.6 calorie per day cut
Yeah.
if you average it out. You know what I mean? It's not, yeah, I don't know. Landier underscore 22. Thoughts for Tren and Anadrol to kickstart to drive up strength, then translating that strength, then translating. Oh, then I guess then translating that strength into new muscle, I would imagine. So you're kickstarting a cycle with Tren and Anadrol.
I think there are other instances that play a role or variables that would want to be controlled. I would obviously focus on getting as strong as possible. I think that definitely will kickstart things for sure. I think using DHB, if you can tolerate it and actually source it, can be helpful for packing on a lot of strength. But from a training standpoint, which is arguably the most important here, right? Because you can eat perfectly, you can take all the drugs, but if you're not training great and stimulus needed, you're not going to get stronger or build more muscle. So I would just make sure I'm changing the training accordingly. I'm not going to be doing 15 to 25 reps if I'm seeking to put on as much strength as possible, pure strength.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like to kickstart cycles with Tren, but I don't necessarily like to do Tren and Anadrol together. So I'd probably say one or the other. You know, I don't think we don't need to drive your blood pressure up to the moon the first week
No,
of
you
your
probably have to
cycle.
be young to tolerate that. Or
Yeah.
again, I'm overlooking the question, but if you were to use that, I can see, okay, maybe on certain days you use the Anadrol
Yeah.
only. It's not like a, let me take this every day type thing.
Well, here's the other. Let's look at it this way. You kickstarted your strength and you had two really or three really good weeks of numbers in the gym, right? And then you pull these compounds and your numbers are going to go down theoretically, right? So, I mean, like, what does that tell you? You know, it was PED induced, strength really. So to me, it's like, and it's not like sustainable strength. Like for me, I want your strength to like go like this. I don't want it to go like this and then back down, and then we do it again and we're up like that. I want it to be more sustainable across the whole cycle. You know?
Yeah, I think you would be better off using it as such where you're committed over the next 8 to 12 weeks to getting as strong as possible. Maybe you start with Tren. After you pull the Tren out, assuming you're on, I don't know, test MPP, for example, and maybe you sprinkle in some Anadrol, stuff like that. I think is how I would go about using it. So the kickstart, sure, you can use the Tren as you can kickstart a prep, right? But you have to understand there's more to it than just because you take a compound doesn't mean that's the sole reason you got really strong.
Yeah.
It helps. Some things add water to your frame, like D-ball
Yeah.
will add water to your frame. You'll have more leverage. With more leverage, you can lift more weight. That doesn't necessarily mean you're stronger. You're just physically, you have more water on you. And now when
Yeah.
you lose Mr. D-ball,
Hmm.
you're left with the reality of what you are, right?
The reality, you're a non-D-ball user now, is what you
Yeah.
are. Okay, from Sierra Marie Weekly, one of my clients, best recommendations for continuing ed for coaches who are in the first 5 years of coaching. I'm going to say, work under someone with an established coaching business. And by established, I mean 5 to 10 years. They're holding 100+ clients for that time frame. They're bringing people to national shows. They're turning people pro every year. They have professional athletes. They have, they're known to help people with GI issues or other functional issues. To me, I think you need to work under that person for a period of time and accept that you're not going to be making the same amount of money as that coach that you're working under, because there's not like a book that teaches you what we do. There's not there's a science behind it, absolutely. But I always tell people, Like it's kind of like science, but it's kind of an art too, because you got to know when to pull the levers. You got to know when to make the moves, when the changes, and we were both, you and I, very fortunate with people we had in our lives that, without, I think I can at least speak for myself. I never had to ask Mr. John Meadows a single question about coaching. I just kept my eyes open, my ears open, and I watched, and I'm okay. He's doing this with me. Okay, this is why I'm going to want to do this, and I would research and do my own homework behind the scenes so that I'm not bogging him down with all these questions. I think a lot of it comes from that. What about you?
I think that's a great idea if you can try to work to be like an apprentice for a coach that's succeeding in the niche that you're looking for. That is one way. I also think, YouTube has a lot of different resources. So depending on what you're looking for, there are people that are very well versed in training and have the ideologies and principles that you can learn and then apply it how you see fit. I think some people are great with nutrition. Some people are great with explaining pharmacology, the female menstrual cycle, stuff like that. So depending on what your niche is, go to that one person. I don't think there's one single person that I would hail as the best at everything. I think
Yeah.
people are good overall, right? If someone were to ask, hey, what is Kyle good at? I think I'm good at many things overall, but there are certain things that I'm better at. Likewise for you, for Chris, for any high level guy.
Yeah.
Um, you'll start to figure out what you are most passionate about. Generally lines up sometimes with, it should line up if you're doing things right from a career standpoint. Financially, usually your dire passion will be the best with that skill set that you're really good at.
One thing I'll add too is the maybe Coach A who can make people look a certain way. Understand that it's also like that same coach isn't the most healthy coach. Meaning, there's a Coach B who might be able to help people in a health function standpoint and maybe get good results, but maybe not the same results in terms of the product being put out on stage, right? I mean, we all know that like at the extreme level, at the high levels, nationals, and all that stuff. So it does take some extreme things, some extreme protocols at times, right? Especially if you're a super heavyweight bodybuilder or whatnot. So understand that like under the coaching umbrella, there's so many different facets. There's competitors. There's competitor issues with GI and adrenal health and all that stuff. And then there's like the Gen Pop population where they're never going to get on stage half naked. So there's so many different facets to coaching, and I think it's really just figuring out how you can help the people that you want to help. And it gets back to what you're saying, like, where's your passion? Do you want to help a lot of people feel better? Do you want to help a lot of people improve their lives? Or do you want to just like try to go out and get numbers and try to get pro cards and try to get, pro wins and that kind of thing? Because they're not always in the same person. And that's not to say you can't learn a lot of great things from both different types of coaches. Steiner underscore lifts. Is your app that rates coaches dropping soon? Hold on. Let me see. The guy emailed me and it says it's done. We'll find out. I don't know. He's been saying that for about 2 months now. I did a beta test and I put a story up yesterday and I had a bunch of people test it out and then fill out a form to give feedback so I could send to him. So hopefully he made those corrections and hopefully we should be seeing it by the end of this week.
Nice.
When that happens, it'll be posted. We'll talk about it here, and then it'll also be posted, in my link tree, or maybe we'll have a separate Instagram or whatnot for it too. Okay. Marino lifts. Why don't either of you own a gym?
Good question. I mean, I think when you start to look at it from a financial standpoint, right, and you run the numbers, gyms in today's day and age, you kind of missed the boat a little bit. This was something that if you had done around COVID, prior to COVID, there was a little bit more opportunity with real estate to get the right piece of land that's needed to construct a certain gym. And then on top of that, since then, there are a lot more gyms, just like there are a lot more coaches. So is it impossible to start a gym now and be profitable? No, it's just the landscape is a much different. And that investment, for the most part, in the tri-state area, for someone just starting out without having a ton of money backing them, it's not the best investment to make, right? I think the ones that are doing very well had a gym that they started as their home base, And then if they're looking to try to franchise it because they are doing very well and people see those numbers, and it makes sense to have now the capital to kind of an influx thereafter. So when you just break it down generally, depending on where you live, I can only speak to what I'm familiar with here in the Northeast, and the cost of living here is much greater than obviously down the South and Midwest areas. So it doesn't really make much sense. You're not going to see that money back for some time. So again, could we have a gym just because of passion? Yes, but I'm at the point where I don't have the passion to be a gym owner and micromanage something, because I'd have to give up all the coaching and all the other things that I have that I've explored over the years and that I'm, in the midst of doing. And I'm not willing to really do that, whereas other people, you could open the gym and they don't care to be there. For me, that's not how I think gyms should be run. I always like the community I reference here, Iron Revolution, the owner's been there day one. He's there all day and night, always. That's his life. And it shows with the product that they've created and how large of a impact they've had on the New Jersey community and other gyms that try to emulate them as well. And you've been to a lot of different gyms, and the ones that do really well, the owner gives a shit. They understand the equipment, the maintenance, right? They're about more than just, let's get a viral reel or something like that. It's the nitty gritty. You got to get your hands dirty.
Yeah. It's a big commitment, I mean, I think anywhere it's minimum to open a good gym like the ones we're talking about. Minimum, you're looking at $1 million, because we're talking you got to either purchase or lease the warehouse space. You need to buy all the equipment or lease the equipment for some of the cardio stuff, and then like you said, it's the time away from your other businesses. Like you can't spend 60, 70 hours a week coaching and also maintain, run, clean, and make sure your gym is offering a great product at the same time. So, and then it's not really your baby if you hire a manager just to do it for you. So it's like, I don't know. I talk about it sometimes with, I'm friends with, Kamal, and we got some other, people at the gym, and we do talk about it from time to time. It's not my number one passion to be a gym owner. Maybe as a silent partner in some way, shape, or form in the future, but yeah, my passion is coaching and working with people. So, all right, so we got another physique critique. This is Mia. I'm going to botch this name up. I'm sorry. Mia Todorovska. Okay. She is coached by her boyfriend. I think she said, by her boyfriend, Coach Goji. I guess we did a physique critique on him a few weeks ago. She's 169 cm, so 169 centimeters and 55.6 kilograms. Okay, well, 21 years old, competes in bikini. She's doing the FIBO Pro Qualifier April 17th, so that's coming up in 2 weeks, basically, 2.5 weeks. She is a natural athlete, and let's see. She has been competing in the IFBB Amateur League since 2023. She's won several overalls.
Well, first and foremost, I think she's going to do very well at her show. Okay. Mm-hmm. I say that based on the fact that, you look at her conditioning at you said 55 kg, 122 pounds. I mean, I think she has all the intangibles. I mean, you're 2.5 weeks out, so you're already there conditioning wise. It's just a matter of kind of playing with that level of fullness that you want. So I think that's great from a competitor. Now, for you, what do you think from, I know, from a posing standpoint, suit color, those things I feel like obviously start to play a little bit of a role at that level.
Yeah. Okay. So she's 5'5" and 121 pounds. I just wanted to check that just for our American listeners here. So yeah, she's not going to be out of shape. That's a fact. Okay. I think you touched on this. She's got to get fuller. She's got to fill out a good deal. And what I'm going with here is, let me put my
fulfilling wise, right?
Yeah. So like, they're not, and I know this is a fasted, you're still on the push to get in shape. They don't want to see a line like this right here in the glute. They want to see fullness and roundness in the glute. So just keep that in mind when you guys are doing the carb up, and as you finish out this last, the last lap of this prep. that your conditioning, you do not need to get any more conditioned. It's going to work against you if you do. Work on fullness. In terms of the suit, I like the color. I don't love the back. I think it's a little too much coverage in the back. And again, maybe the federation's a little different over there. Over here, we're just so used to like the thong cut on the bikini athletes because it helps make the glutes look a little bit bigger and rounder.
Yeah.
And in terms of what I think she needs to work on, it's really the back shot. Just a little more upper outer glutes still, and a little more upper outer glutes. And the tie-in's probably just a little bit deeper. She's probably flat, and the tie-ins are probably really there. I wouldn't get her quads any bigger. I'm looking from the back. I think this is appropriate. And maybe just stand just a little bit taller in the back shot. So there's not so much of an arch. But I can see why she's won several overalls already,
Yeah, sure.
I just think, from here, I think you're in shape. I think now it's time to pull back on the cardio. I think it's time to, start feeding up and see how full you can get the glutes to look in both the front and back shot. But yeah, anything else?
No, like I said, I think the conditioning is where it needs to be. I think at this point, other than wanting to put a little bit more muscle on the upper glute, just come in a little fuller. Conditioning's there. I presume these are not after refeed and resting for days. This is probably in the midst of being 2.5 weeks out. So this is a great lift for 2.5 weeks out. And now it's just trying to bring a fresh, rested, fuller physique to the stage. And I think she'll do pretty well if I was a betting person.
Absolutely. We'll have to see how she does at FIBO. Tyler_W. If you're taking Cialis, is there any need for pump products?
Well, with Cialis, I presume people are taking it for enhanced blood flow. Assuming you're not constricting your blood flow with a ton of caffeine, which many people do. Yeah. Cialis doesn't often help, right, when we're going to do that. So let's not do that. But there's other key ingredients, I think, in some pump products, glycerol, citrulline, things like that I like to use that aren't in Cialis. So I'll still use a pump product. And that's kind of all I have to say about that. I'd like to use my pump products, so I'm using Cialis. It's to just enhance blood flow, but oftentimes I feel like the people that are going down that route often use high amounts of caffeine pre-training as well.
Which you're saying just kind of negates the whole effect of it anyway, right?
It
kind of does.
It does. Like they're like, hey, I'm not getting as much of a pump as I felt I used to. And it's like, okay, if you take the Cialis, you're going to get a better pump. But the reality is you're not getting a better pump because you used to take 200 milligrams of caffeine and now you're taking 400 milligrams of caffeine. Why don't you just back it off a little bit,
Yeah.
Increase
for people, I was going to say, for people that don't know, Cialis is a phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor. What that means is it basically increases your nitric oxide production, which helps open up the blood vessels, right? And caffeine constricts blood vessels. So you're like sending mixed signals to your body. Which one's winning out? I don't know. But I'll tell you this, I've only had to use something like telmisartan like for one stretch of my life when I was super heavy. All the rest of my years in bodybuilding, it's been 5 to 10 milligrams of Cialis, and then I would do a scoop of a pump product first thing in the morning. Like I use our Vasoblast, which is our pump product, citrulline, agmatine sulfate. It's got a couple other things in there, but non-stim, okay? I find that that's always kept my blood pressure literally between 118 and 122 over like 78, like for years. So that's kind of just been my plan. I guess the question is there any need? No, there's not a need to do anything. There's not a need to eat chicken breasts, but we do it because it helps our goal. So it's like, could it be additive and helpful? Absolutely. Is there a need? Maybe not. Yasser XK, Bloodwork panel explaining how to mitigate the H and fix the L with troubleshooting. So I think he's saying the HDL and fix the LDL, I think. Oh, wait, no, how to fix the high and low with troubleshooting, CBC and lipids. We were going to do that one with Chris sometime, now that I think about it, and pull up some labs.
Is he asking, like, go through a lab panel? Is that what he says?
I think that's what he's saying. How about this? Yasser, send us your lab panel, and we'll go over it. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Um, all right, here's a good one. Big Willie's Journal '04. Pick only 5 machines for back. Have we done this yet? No, we haven't done back, have we?
No.
Fuck.
Okay.
All right.
Or
I'm
are
not going to
these
say.
5 specific machines, or are these 5 machines that everyone has like access to, essentially,
Well,
one
let's
way
say
or another?
you're putting together your back workout, your favorite back workout. What are you going to do?
I like the Prime pull down. It's a 1 arm pull down, very similar to the Nautilus pull down. Okay. And this is in no particular order. I like a chest supported row of some sort. I'll use the Prime one, or there's a Rogers Pro if I want to make it more lat focused or something. One of those two generally are very good. I find myself of late using the assisted pull up machine instead of lat pull downs. It's both identical, I guess you could say, to a degree, right?
Yeah.
Um, what else? Really bad machine. I don't have access to it anymore. But it's a Magnum. You know what the Magnum row is?
I do. Yes.
So that one I always really like. I thought different ways and angles you can hit. That was multifunctional. I really like that. What's more? I would say probably like T-bar row, chest support T-bar row.
Yeah.
Arsenal one's super heavy. I always called it like the humbler. But there's like a Jim Lecco one that's a little bit more easy on the chest, good angle.
Okay.
I think those are, when you hit those 5 machines, I feel like you can put together a pretty good back.
Yeah. I can't disagree with any of them. Like literally, right before you're saying each one, I was thinking of like either that one or like a similar version. Um, I guess the only thing that I maybe would swap in, just because I used to love doing them, was like dead stop dumbbell rows. I don't know what I'd replace it with. Maybe the Prime, though I do like the Prime chest supported row too. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like back, it's the movement, not the machine, really. You know what I mean? Like if you can, like we all have like favorite like chest machines or hack squat machines. For me with back, it's like, well, I'm looking when I think of it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something that's some type of pull down. I typically like to do single arm pull down. I'm going to think of something that's a row using a neutral grip. I'm going to think of some type of row using a pronated grip, and then I'm going to use something that's going to hit whatever I feel is like super weak at that point that I need to be focusing on as an extra, and then I might throw some type of shrug in, and that would be like a back workout for me. That's kind of how I like to do it personally. Okay. Just trying to see if there's any we haven't done. Um, strict strength. Most most down bad moment in prep. Example: drinking liters of diet pop. He's from the Midwest. I can tell you that. Being super cold. Most down bad moment in prep. I don't know what that really means. I guess like being super cold or drinking liters of diet pop.
Guess what's the worst? What's the worst feeling?
Okay. But drinking, oh, like you drank so much diet soda, you have like so much gas or something, or
No, I think he's probably drinking carbonated beverages to he's so hungry or something like that.
okay, okay, super cold. I mean, my worst prep, I'll just say it was 2018. It was when I really switched over to full time coaching, and I wasn't personal training hardly at all. So I was sitting a lot more, and I learned firsthand just how much your energy expenditure changes from just standing and walking around with people versus sitting in a chair at a computer. And because my cardio went from like maybe at most in 2017, like 5 sessions of 45 minutes a week at the peak, to having to do at my peak in 2018 two 45-minute sessions, one in the morning, one midday, a 30-minute session at night, and then just walking. I remember towards the end having to do like 20,000 steps on top of that to make up for it because I was behind. And I remember I structured my day where, because I was waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, right? Because you don't sleep, doing my cardio, first cardio. I'd go and bang out like 2 hours of work, sleep for an hour, get up and do my second cardio, go and bang out 2 hours of work, sleep for another hour, go to the gym, come home and take a nap, and then work for like 3 or 4 hours. Because I always had decent energy mentally at night, I guess. And then I did my last cardio after the gym, and then I would spend the rest of the night just walking outside in the dark for like an hour just to get my steps where I needed them. And I just remember I did have to personal train someone at one point there, and I remember walking into work, and I was leaning against a mirror while she was doing something, and next thing I know, she's like, Andrew, and he's like, I was like sleeping, standing up, literally like sleeping. And that's when I told my clients, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be training you for another 3 weeks till I'm done this thing. Sorry. It's probably not safe, you know? So that was probably like the worst I felt, you know, but I loved it.
Buddy, look.
Made me feel like elitist, you know, because I'm like, these other motherfuckers aren't doing 2 hours of cardio a day. They're not doing this. They're not doing that,
Yeah.
you know? You got to build these little things in your head of like, to get you through it, of like, I'm tougher, I'm harder, you know, I don't need any of this to make myself feel comfortable. You know, like the Kevin Levrone, like I slept on the floor for 8 weeks during prep. You know what I mean? I ate fish and broccoli, no sauce, no nothing. You know, that mentality. You know,
Yeah.
it works at times. You know, it does work at times. Would I do things differently now? Absolutely, knowing that you don't need to be that hardcore, but it got me through at the time. What about you?
Down bad moment. I think I had like a food virus. It was going into what would have been a peak week, and like I had like a
Oh,
refeed week before, and or no, like 4 days out essentially is when I started to like load, and I was like just shitting myself, man. Like
oh,
I remember getting out the car and like I just went to the bathroom. I'm like, this is something's not working. I can't hold any food down. So
oh.
that was pretty cruddy.
You know, it's funny actually. I bet you were dry. I had a guy, Sammy, in 2023, I think it was. He shows up to North Americans, and he was doing men's physique and classic physique, and he'd already been top five in both before, and he had just won a show recently to qualify again. And he's like, something's weird, man. Like, I'm not hungry. I'm like, okay, well, just, you know, let's push your meal back 30 minutes. We got time, you know. This was on like maybe the Wednesday or Thursday before, I think it was Friday prejudging for men. And and then I get the next message from him. He's like, dude, he's like, I just threw up everything I had in my stomach. He's like, and now I'm shitting myself. He's like, I think I have actual food poisoning. I'm like, sure, you're not just a little nervous? You sure? He's like, dude, the amount that came up, like, I'm sick. So the poor kid didn't eat anything. He was down 12 pounds lower than what we thought he was going to be on stage. 12 pounds, right? So we salvaged it, man. Like he ended up getting third in his class in classic, and I want to say fourth in men's physique. So he still plays top five in both, and he was dry as a motherfucker, dude. Like no diuretics needed. Like we were just trying to push. You know, here's what I did with him actually. I'm like, okay, my thought process is we need to push everything out of you. So drink. I want you just guzzling water. Keep drinking water. I know it sucks. You're going to throw some of it back up, but I want to push any of the viral load out of your system as fast as possible. You're going to basically be sitting on the toilet all night, but let's do that. And it actually worked because by prejudging, we could get, I think, some rice cakes and some peanut butter and some honey down, and that's what we did. So, yeah, I forgot about that story.
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. We got one more physique critique. This is Stevie King. You know Stevie?
Stevie King doesn't ring a bell. Should I know
He
Stevie?
he won his pro card at nationals this year.
Hmm.
He's 21 years old. He's going to compete in the 212s. He got the second place card, I think, in the welters, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
He right now he's 210, a little over halfway into his off season. 10 weeks left before he switches gears into prep. So he's hoping to get to the 220s, but not focused as much on weight as he is the look. His pro debut is in August, which he's probably doing Tampa, I would imagine, or maybe Texas. I think he might actually be in Texas. Think I can fix back double pose. Any tips? So he wants some tips on his back double when we get to it. He's on test, EQ, NPP, 13 milligrams total, no GH or orals. Okay. So he's 210, 5'4", and 3/4 in these pictures. Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to go to the next pictures?
Yeah, you can. Before we go to the next picture, sorry.
Yeah.
I would just say from a posing standpoint, since you mentioned wanting tips for the back double, I just think his feet are a little wide. I would bring them in a little bit, not bend at the knee like it seems like he is.
In the front double and the lat spread and the
Uh, Really, in the front lat spread, you could see his stance
yeah.
is wide, right?
Mhm.
He's like bowing the knee out. All that does is make you shorter, and it sounds like you're short enough. You're 5'4", right? We don't need to go 5'2" here.
Okay.
And it's not making anything better. It just makes your legs look thinner because you have a gap now, a larger gap, and your adductors are actually pretty good. So don't have as much spacing.
Yeah, you're right. I'm actually looking. He is spacing them out even more in his lat spread than the other two
Mm-hmm.
front shots. So I would even argue maybe the front relaxed, he could pull those in just a little, like an inch maybe total. So yeah, I agree with you 100% there. Okay, so here I'm going to say this. I don't think he should chase the scale, and I know he said he's not going to, because I'm seeing a good amount of fat on the glutes right now
Mm-hmm.
and the hamstrings, and I just, going into your pro, here's what you can do as a pro debut. I think the most important thing is to come in absolutely peeled and make that the standard for your pro career. I think the worst thing an athlete can do is get too heavy trying to make a jump up in musculature that they don't actually hit really good conditioning for their pro debut. And then the kind of conditioning that they would hit when they won their pro card at nationals. And I think he's getting to that point right now, especially in the lower body, where it's just too much right now. What do you think about that with the fat?
I'd agree with that. I try to keep bad people leaner. I just don't think fat doesn't turn into muscle, and it usually just wrecks your health markers. Your appetite's going to become shittier, your workouts are shittier. So at some point, you have to just realize that, okay, my body fat's higher than I need it to be, to where I'm just going to have to work that much harder to get it off. And when I have to work harder to get it off, that means I'm risking losing a little bit of muscle potentially as I have to work harder in this deficit.
Big thing that pops up here for me is in the side chest. I think he needs more chest development. Um, and then he wanted us to break apart his rear double, which I don't think the shot in itself is horrible. I don't think it needs too much tweaking. What about you?
Um, I would move that right foot a little more forward because it'll make his legs look even more even in
Hmm.
terms of like the width on them. And then I think like many people, they don't have the ability to externally rotate at that shoulder.
Yep.
So if you can do that, show the front delt a little bit more, you'll get a little bit more peak to the bicep. That'll make the whole upper back look a little thicker. And then I think on the side chest that you mentioned, he's using his hand to grasp his other hand. I always like that hand to go, a little further up on the wrist, or even the forearm for some people. I think that helps give you a little bit more thickness, get rid of that gap in between his left arm and pec. Yeah.
Yep. For sure.
Rear lat spread, again, I would change the feet to be positioned the same way as the back double. You'll get a little bit more balance symmetry in the lower half, and then it almost looks like he's shrugging his shoulders up a little bit as opposed to keeping his shoulders even, right? I mean, you don't
Yeah.
want to pull them down necessarily, but you want to shrug them up to your neck, to your ear. So
Yeah.
relax that a little bit and simply just open wide, lift the chest to the ceiling.
That's a good critique. Definitely got to work the shoulder flexibility for the rear shots because in that rear relaxed, see how we can't even see his hands really, can't even see his forearms.
Yeah, exactly.
I call this I call this the riding the chopper. Like he looks like he's riding a motorcycle, right? How
Yeah.
bad was it in the front? Yeah, the front you're kind of there too. So um, just got to work that mobility, and that's the thing. Like as you get more muscular, you're going to become less limber unless you stay on top of it. And it's just something that I think we got to build them into our programs now. Like I have a mobility sheet that every athlete gets now. On their off days, I want them to spend 10 to 15 minutes doing various shoulder, hip stuff. I have a full body routine that I have them do. Um, Again, I'm going to say chest on the side tricep. I'm a little underwhelmed by the chest development in that side shot.
I agree. Side try can be improved a little bit, like you said, with some better mobility and a little bit more muscle up top. And then most muscular, I mean, if I'm being honest, I hate this pose. That he's
Me
doing.
too. Me
Yeah.
too. I would rather see a standard, you're upright, hands clasped or hands, meeting in the middle. Show some width in the shoulders to a small waist, and don't elongate your legs out. I think that I don't know. It takes like a certain athlete that can pull off the crab, and I don't think every athlete can do it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for sending over, Stevie.
Yeah. So Stevie's. I met him before at.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, I think where did I meet him? I talked to him. Maybe it was. Did we do a call or did maybe he was on Blood, Sweat, and Gear. Maybe that's what it was. And I remember him being like a very modest and like just a really like the kind of person you want to see turn pro, like very respectful of the sport, not wanting anything before he's earned it, basically. And it was definitely a breath of fresh air. So good luck to you, Stevie, the rest of your prep and or the rest of your off season, and then into your prep for, I would assume, either Tampa or Texas if you're competing in August. So, guys, that's all we have for tonight. Kyle, you got anything?
No, man. Pretty much it. I have a couple of competitors competing this weekend, and
Nice. Yeah, I got one out in Arizona. She's looking her best ever, so I'm feeling really happy about her. So, Gabby Beltran, big shout out to you. Guys, leave us comments. Leave us your 5 favorite back exercises in the comments, and give us some ideas and topics for a future episode. And I think next time we will have Chris with us, so everyone can look forward to that. With that, we are Unwracked.